Hello, once again. I wish you sweetness and peace and happiness wherever you are on the mystical planet called Earth. As you see, this biggest day, the topic for today is Paul's journey. The Apostle Paul, one of the greatest individuals in the Bible. Even if a person has just basic baby knowledge of the Bible, they have heard of Paul. Now, they may think that Paul was one of the 12 apostles, but he wasn't. But regardless, you got infantile knowledge of the Bible, you still know who Paul was. My purpose for today, my topic is to discover the journey of Paul. I want to learn about his education, what he probably looked like, and most importantly, which is never discussed, since he was a Pharisee, was he there? Did he see Jesus in person? We know he saw Jesus on the Damascus road. Well, he didn't see Jesus, he just heard him. But when Jesus was alive on the earth, was Paul there to see him? I'm not saying he was there all the time. He didn't see Jesus on A, B, C, D occasions, but did he see him on occasions A and D? We're going to see that. And it is up to you. I don't have no definitive proof. I just have scriptures to point out the behavior of the Pharisees. Let's dive right in. This is coming from Revelations chapter 12, verse 9. It had nothing to do with Paul. Nothing to do with Paul, but it's important, my good people. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Now, this is the big point right here. Satan, the devil, it says he's deceived the whole world. How many times in church do you hear the preacher talking about that? Satan had deceived the whole world, and he was cast to earth. So his prison area for now is earth. It's not on Mars. It's not in Alpha Centauri, another galaxy. It's not on Jupiter or Venus or Uranus. He's been cast to the earth. This is his prison for now. Right from Revelations 12:9. It said it, not me. Now, we're going to jump into learning about Paul. This is from John chapter 21, verse 25. Jesus did many other things as well. If every one of them were written down, I suppose that even the whole world would not have room for the books that will be written. That's another thing that's big. It said books, my good people. Today, in the United States, we say there in the Western world, we say there are 66 books in the Bible. That's a mistake. There are a lot of books in the Bible. Many of them was taken out. We just got the 66. So keep that in mind, good people. Everyone has heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls, from what I know, I'm not a historian, it contains information on the books today. And it has many other books. Because right here in this passage, it says, if every one of them were written down, I suppose that even the whole world would not have room for the books that will be written. So there are many books. In the Western world, we just have 66. So keep that in mind. There are many more books. Humans just made it 66. Now we're learning about Paul. This is from Acts chapter 21. Starting with verse 37. As the soldiers were about to take Paul into the barracks, he asked the commander, "May I say something to you?" Paul is talking to the Roman commander. Paul said, "Do you speak Greek?" He replied. Now here's the man talking to Paul. He's saying, aren't you the Egyptian who started a revolt and led 4,000 terrorists out into the wilderness from some time ago? Here's Paul answers. Paul answered, I am a Jew from Tarsus in Sicily, a citizen of no ordinary city. So Paul, he's basically bragging on his city. I come from a big, well-to-do city. Please let me speak to the people. But here's the thing, good people. We see many so-called images of Paul. We see a lot of so-called images. But the guy mistaken Paul and looked at him. He looked at Paul and said, aren't you the Egyptian? So, did Paul look like an Egyptian, like in the photograph right here? Did Paul have brown skin? Did Paul have a fat-looking face with big lips, a big nose? Because the man said you are an Egyptian. Going back to the first scripture, good people, remember, it said, Satan has deceived the whole world. Part of that deception is distorting the Bible. Distorting how the historical figures in the Bible probably look, whether you like it or not. The Bible said Satan has. It didn't say he's trying to. The Bible said he has deceived the whole world, not trying. The commander looked at Paul and said, aren't you the Egyptian? That's all I'm going to say. It's up to you to take it or not. So you may have to get rid of all those images that they like to show of Paul in Hollywood that was made from the 14th century to now. They never show no pictures of Paul in the 3rd century, the 1st century, the 4th. They never do that. They only show pictures of Paul from the 14th century European history forward. Before I move on, I'm just going to say it again. That commander thought Paul was an Egyptian. The photograph will give you an idea how an Egyptian looked. This is coming from Acts chapter 23, verse 6. Then Paul, knowing that some of them were Sadducees and the others Pharisees, called out in the Sanhedrin, my brothers, Israelites, I am a Pharisee. Paul said, oh, I'm educated like you are. I had the same level of training. He said, I am a Pharisee, descended from Pharisees. I come from a Pharisee. He basically said, my father's a pastor, and now I'm a pastor. My father was a deacon, now I'm a deacon. I come from a line of people knowledgeable about the Hebrew scriptures. I stand on trial because of the hope of the resurrection of the dead. He didn't say people going to heaven. He didn't say people going to hell. He said, I stand on trial because of the hope of the resurrection. But we see Paul's background, education. Out his own mouth, he's an educated man. He said, I am a Pharisee. How many religious leaders tell us that? How many tell you that? They just talk about Paul being an apostle of Jesus Christ. World-wise, he was an educated man. He was a Pharisee. And that's going to be important. Remember that. Pharisee, that's an important topic. We're going to cover more and more of that in this particular lesson. This is Philippians chapter 3, verse 5. Circumcised on the 8th day of the people of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews, in regard to a Pharisee. Again, he let you know, hey, I come from the tribe of Israel. I'm a Benjaminite. I'm a Hebrew. And I know about the law. I am a Pharisee. So we got two cases where Paul said he is a Pharisee, not one. We got two sound evidences of Paul's educational background as a religious leader, as a religious spokesman. This is coming from Acts chapter 9, verse 1 to 6. It's a lot of reading. Then Saul, that was his name before he became Paul. Then Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord. Remember that, people? He's acting like the people who hated Jesus. We're going to get into that. Then Saul, a Pharisee, still be breathing threats and murder. Remember, that's a big deal. Remember how Jesus died? Remember how he was murdered against the disciples of the Lord. Went to the high priest. So Paul was a Pharisee, but he was not a high priest. And asked letters for him to the synagogue of Damascus, so that if he found any who were of the way, that's what it was called in the beginning, not Christianity. It was called followers of the way, whether men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. He's gonna find them. He's gonna drag them to the Jerusalem, and he may end up killing them, because that's how much he hated the followers of the way. That's how much he hated Jesus Christ the Messiah. As a Pharisee, he hated Jesus. Remember that? As he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly a light shone around him from heaven. Then he fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Remember this. It said a light shone around him. He did not see who was in the light. He just saw the bright light. Because if we notice, I didn't include it here, but he became blind. The light was that intense. Like looking into the sun. I heard if you look into the sun long enough, you will become blind. Or you will suffer some vision damage. And he said, who are you, Lord? So Paul, he did show respect. But I guess he knew it was a heavenly creature with that light blasting in his face. He knew it wasn't a human being doing that. Because back then they did not have no flashlight. All they had was torchlight. The Lord said, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting, who you hated. As a Pharisee, you hated me. It is hard for you to kick against the goads. I think goads is another way from stones or heavy objects. So he trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what do you want me to do? Okay, here's Paul again. Why you think he was trembling and astonished? Because now he know, hey, Jesus was right. He is the Son of God. He was so terrified of what he did in the past, he started trembling. Because up in the beginning, remember, he said he was breathing threats and murder. Because he hated Jesus. Because he was a Pharisee. Most of the Pharisees, because I can't say all of them, because some of them did love him. Some of the Pharisees believed that he was the Christ. There was some. Like the one who buried Jesus. He was a Pharisee. But the majority, like Paul, they hated Jesus. They wanted to murder him. Then the Lord said to him, arise and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do. So we see it right there. He hated Jesus. He hated the followers of the way. He wanted to murder the followers of the way. And Jesus said, if you murder his followers, you basically murdering him. So, he was a Pharisee. Did Paul give the thumbs up to have Jesus crucified? Because remember, he's a Pharisee. He was with the majority of them who hated Jesus. I'm just going off of evidence, like a scientist. I'm just going off the evidence what the Bible giving me. Because the Bible, God wants us to be wise, not ignorant. This is Matthew chapter 23, verse 38 to 42. Then some of the scribes and Pharisees said to him, Teacher, we want to see a sign from you. But he answered and said to them, an evil and adulterous generation craves for a sign, and yet no sign will be given to you but the sign of Jonah. the prophet. For just as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the sea monster, he didn't say a whale, he didn't say a shark, he just said a sea monster, so we don't know what that is. So will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. You see here, those Pharisees, which Paul was the majority, wanted to see a sign to prove. They wanted to see a lightning bolt in the sky. They wanted to hear a thunderous voice. They wanted him to turn 12 p.m. into 12 p.m. instantly. They wanted a sign. They kept, as you see right in the picture, they kept testing him, as we're going to see. This is Matthew chapter 16, verse 1 to 4. Then the Pharisees, which Paul was, and the Sadducees, who he knew knowledge of, came to Jesus and tested him again by asking him to show a sign from heaven. See this sign? They wanted a sign from heaven, like a lightning bolt, a thunderclap. And he replied, when evening comes, you say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning, today it will be stormy, for the sky is red and overcast. You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the signs of the times. A wicked and adulterous generation looks for a sign, but none will be given except the sign of Jonah. Again, Jesus then left them and went away. Again, they wanted to test him. Prove to us that you are who you say you are, or who the people believe you are. Because Jesus did not go around saying, I'm gonna send a God to everybody. He only told it to a select few. If other people worshiped him, he let them worship him. But only a select few knew. This is coming from Mark chapter 8, verse 11 to 12. The Pharisees came and began to question Jesus, to test him. Okay, to test him. They asked him for a sign from heaven. Again, he sighed deeply and said, why does this generation ask for a sign? Truly I tell you, no sign will be given to it. They love to test him. They love that. This is from Matthew chapter 19, verse 3. Well, just verse 3. Some Pharisees came to test him again. They asked, is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for in every reason? You know the answer to that. You know the answer. I'm not going to go over that. But the main point, once more, they love testing him, putting him to the test, trying to make him prove himself. This is John chapter 8, verse 3 to 11. Well, 3 to 6. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. And the law of Moses commanded us to stone such a woman. Now what do you say? They was using this question as a trap, not testing anyone to trap him, in order to have a bias for accusing him. Remember, so you see, they hated him. They was against him, like Paul was. Paul is a Pharisee. Was Paul right there looking at Jesus? Was he? Matthew chapter 12, verse 14. But the Pharisees went out and plotted how they might kill Jesus. Biggest day. Paul wanted to murder them. Paul wanted to murder Jesus. And it's saying not the Sadducees, the Pharisees, which Paul was. This is John chapter 12, verse 9 to 11. Meanwhile, a large crowd of Jews found out that Jesus was there and came, not only because of him, but also to see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. So the chief priests made plans to kill Lazarus as well. The priests or the Pharisees. They wanted to kill Lazarus as well. For on account of him, many of the Jews were going over to Jesus and believing in him. So they hated Jesus and they hated Lazarus. And they stoned blood killers because they said they wanted to kill him too. You see, the religious leaders, which Paul was. And they said the chief priest, the top of the line, not the lowly priest, the chief priest. This is coming from Matthew chapter 27, verse 20 to 23. But the chief priests and elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus killed, murdered, executed. Which of the two do you want to be released to you? Asked the governor. Barabbas, they yelled. What shall I do then with Jesus, who is called the Messiah? Pilate asked. They all answered, crucify him, kill him, murder him. Why? What crime has he committed? Asked Pilate. But they shouted all the louder, murder him, kill him, crucify him. We don't care, we want him gone. Like Paul wanted the followers of the way gone. That's it, my good people. Paul's journey as an apostle of Christ. Did he see Jesus while Jesus was doing those miracles? Did he listen to Jesus as he was giving those parables? Remember, my good people, an apostle, from the Bible definition, not the apostles today. The apostles, like the 12 apostles, they are men who saw Jesus on earth. They are men who heard Jesus preach on earth. They are men who witnessed the godly power of Jesus when he was a human on earth. No preacher or father ever talk about this. Those three things. To be an apostle, you have to physically see Jesus on earth. To be an apostle, you have to physically have heard his teachings, and you have to have physically seen him perform his miracles. Paul was a Pharisee. So, did he see Jesus? Because he knew who Jesus was, because he wanted to go kill and murder and bound the followers of the way. I'm just going over something that we never talk about. Why is Paul an apostle? Once more, apostle had to have Jesus while he was on earth, physically on earth. They had to have seen Jesus perform those miracles. The apostles heard that. The apostles saw Jesus when he was healing people. And those Pharisees saw Jesus healing people. The Pharisees heard Jesus teaching. Was Paul there? Because he just can't call himself an apostle just by seeing a beam of light. He didn't see Jesus. All he saw was that beam of light on the Damascus road, the light that blinded him. Thank you for stopping by. Heavenly Father, thank you for the insight you gave me to dig deeper into some of the origin of your servant, the Apostle Paul. You give wisdom. You're a God of wisdom. I hope you have given me wisdom. I hope I have educated your children more on about the man called Paul. Was he there when Jesus was alive on earth? Did he see Jesus alive on earth? Thank you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. If you like my discussion about the Apostle Paul, please give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to give any comments or insight about Paul, please leave a comment. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, be my guest and subscribe. If you're already a subscriber and want to be notified immediately when I upload new content, hit the bell button. If you would like to share this with your family members, your husband, your wife, your cousin, your niece, please click on the share button to share on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. Thank you all for stopping by. Have a good day and continue reading your Bible.